My name is Elena, and I am 40 years old. For as long as I can remember, the scent of chicory coffee and the sound of jazz drifting from an open window have been the heartbeat of my New Orleans home. I poured my entire life savings and every ounce of my passion into opening the Morning Glory, a small coffee shop tucked away on a leafy side street, just a few blocks from the historic French Quarter. It wasn't just a business to me. It was a dream I had nurtured since I was a little girl, watching my grandmother brew coffee for everyone who walked through her door, always with a kind word and a warm smile. My shop was meant to be a place where the community could gather, where stories were shared over steaming cups, and where everyone felt a little more at home. I worked 7 days a week, often from 4 in the morning until long after the streetlights came on, polishing counters, brewing batch after batch of my special blends, and perfecting my homemade beignets. I remembered every regular's order, their children's names, and even their favorite jokes. My hands ached, my feet throbbed, but I found joy in the smiles of my customers and the comforting rhythm of the espresso machine. I truly believed I was living my purpose, creating a little haven for others. But then, the world seemed to shift beneath my feet. First, there was the sudden increase in the cost of coffee beans, then the price of milk and sugar, and even the paper cups I used. Rent on my little shop went up, and repairs for the old building became more frequent and more expensive. A shiny new chain coffee shop opened just 2 streets away, with bright lights and cheap deals, drawing away some of my loyal customers. Each month, the numbers in my ledger grew smaller, the column of expenses steadily creeping higher than the column of income. I started to worry, a cold knot tightening in my stomach every time I looked at the bills. My biggest fear, my internal nemesis, wasn't just failure. It was the thought of disappointing my grandmother's memory, of letting down the community I loved, and of having to admit that my dream, my beautiful morning glory, might not make it. I lay awake at night. The sounds of the city outside my window, usually a comfort, now seemed to mock my sleeplessness, amplifying my quiet struggles. I told myself I could fix it, that I just needed to work harder, that New Orleans magic would surely come to my rescue. I tried everything I could think of to turn things around. I added new items to the menu, special seasonal drinks with flavors inspired by local fruits, and even started baking my own savory breakfast pastries to complement the sweet beignets. I extended my hours, opening earlier to catch the construction workers and closing later for the night owls. I hosted a small open mic night every Thursday, hoping to bring in some evening crowd, and invited local artists to display their paintings on my walls, creating a vibrant, changing gallery. I even started offering coffee bean subscriptions, delivering fresh grounds to people's homes, hoping to secure some consistent income. I cut every personal expense imaginable. I stopped buying new clothes, cooked every meal at home, and drove my old car until it practically fell apart. I was pouring every last drop of my energy and every penny I earned back into the shop. For a while, there were small signs of hope. A few new faces would appear, some regulars would bring their friends, and the open mic nights sometimes drew a small but enthusiastic crowd. I would feel a brief flutter of optimism, believing that I was finally turning the corner. But each small step forward seemed to be met with 2 steps back. One brutally hot summer day, my antique espresso machine, the heart of my business, sputtered, clanked, and then died, leaving me with nothing but weak drip coffee to offer. The repair bill was astronomical, nearly wiping out what little emergency fund I had scraped together. Then, a massive hurricane skirted the coast, not hitting us directly, but still causing enough flooding and power outages to keep the shop closed for 3 crucial days, losing all that income. My only part-time employee, a kind young woman named Marie, whose help I truly depended on, had to move away for family reasons, leaving me completely alone to manage everything. The exhaustion became a constant companion, a heavy blanket draped over my shoulders. I was behind on my shop's rent, the electricity company sent me a final notice, and the fresh fruit supplier, usually so understanding, called to say they couldn't extend my credit any longer. I was running on fumes, emotionally and physically. I remember one evening, after closing, sitting at one of my small, empty tables, surrounded by the ghosts of laughter and conversation that once filled the air. I looked at my hands, rough and stained from coffee, and felt a profound weariness settle deep into my bones. The numbers on my latest balance sheet screamed failure, a harsh siren in the quiet of the night. I stared at the for lease sign I had secretly printed, tucked away in a drawer, the words blurring through my tears. I thought about giving up, about admitting defeat, about letting the morning glory fade away like a forgotten dream. The fight was just too hard, the burden too heavy to bear alone. I had no idea how I would pay the rent next week, let alone buy fresh supplies. I felt utterly broken. It was in that period, just weeks before, that a man had walked into the shop. He looked even more tired than I felt, his clothes a little rumpled, his eyes carrying a deep sadness. He ordered a simple black coffee, and when he reached for his wallet, his hand trembled slightly. I saw him hesitate, and in a split-second decision, despite my own dire situation, something inside me prompted me to tell him it was on the house. "Just a little something to brighten your day," I said, offering him a genuine smile, a small act of kindness I barely remembered after all the subsequent struggles. He looked surprised, gave me a small, grateful nod, and left without saying another word. I had forgotten all about him. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was barely functioning, moving through the motions, preparing to put up the for lease sign as soon as the morning rush, if you could even call it that anymore, had passed. My heart felt like a lead weight in my chest. A few customers came and went, their familiar faces a bittersweet reminder of happier times. Then, the man from weeks ago, the one I had given the free coffee to, walked in. He looked different today, his posture straighter, a quiet confidence in his eyes, but I still couldn't place him fully, my mind too clouded with my own despair. He ordered a coffee, paid, and then as he turned to leave, he placed a thick envelope on the counter. "This is for you, Elena," he said, his voice soft but firm. "And please read the note inside when you have a moment." He gave me a knowing look, a gentle, reassuring smile, and then walked out into the bright New Orleans morning. My hands were shaking as I picked up the envelope. It was surprisingly heavy. I tore it open, my breath catching in my throat. Inside, there was a stack of crisp $100 bills, more money than I had seen in one place in years. And underneath, a handwritten note. "Dear Elena," it began, "you don't know me well, but a few weeks ago, when I walked into your shop, I was at rock bottom. I had just lost my job, my wife had left me, and I was on the verge of losing everything. That morning, I didn't even have enough for a coffee. Your kindness, that simple act of offering me a free cup, was a lifeline. It wasn't just the coffee, it was the warmth in your eyes, the genuine smile you offered a complete stranger who looked like he had nothing left. It reminded me that there was still good in the world, and it gave me just enough hope to keep fighting. I landed a new job, a really good one, just last week, and I'm slowly putting my life back together. I promised myself I would come back and pay it forward and then some. This is not a tip, it's a seed. Plan it well. Don't ever stop being the light for others, Elena. The Morning Glory is more than just a coffee shop. It's a haven from a grateful stranger." Tears streamed down my face, hot and fast, as I read the words. The amount in the envelope was staggering, enough to pay off all my overdue bills, clear my debt with the suppliers, and even replace the broken espresso machine. It was a miracle, a true act of grace, born from a simple, forgotten kindness. The knot in my stomach untangled, replaced by an overwhelming sense of relief and a renewed, burning hope. I wasn't alone. My dream wasn't foolish. Someone had seen me, truly seen me, and pulled me back from the edge. I didn't put up the for lease sign that day. Instead, I called the landlord, paid my rent, and ordered a brand new espresso machine. I called my suppliers, settled my accounts, and ordered the freshest ingredients I could find. With the shop saved, I felt a deep responsibility to honor that incredible act of kindness. The Morning Glory wasn't just my dream anymore. It was a testament to the power of human connection. I started a community Cuppa program. On a large chalkboard by the counter, I invited customers to pay it forward. For a small donation, anyone could buy a coffee for a stranger, leaving a little note of encouragement if they wished. It wasn't long before the board was filled with little squares, each representing a free coffee waiting for someone who might need it. People embraced it wholeheartedly, writing messages like, "Hope your day gets better," or "You are seen." My shop blossomed. The old energy returned, but it was stronger, warmer, infused with a new sense of purpose. I even hired Marie back, and then another young woman, giving them jobs and a place where they felt valued. The Morning Glory became a vibrant hub, a place where people knew that even a small act of kindness could change a life. Years have passed since that life-changing morning. The Morning Glory is thriving, a beloved fixture in our New Orleans community. The community Cuppa board is always full, a living mosaic of hope. And every now and then, when someone walks in looking a little down or hesitant, I still offer them a free coffee just like that day. One blustery afternoon, a young woman no older than 20 came into the shop. She looked lost, her eyes shadowed with worry. She ordered a simple tea, and as she paid, I felt an inexplicable pull to connect with her. "On me," I said with a smile, pushing her money back. "Just a little something to brighten your day." She looked up startled, then a small smile touched her lips. "Thank you," she said softly. "My dad always told me to come here if I ever felt lost. He said this was a place where kindness started." My heart skipped a beat. "What's your dad's name?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She told me, and it was the name of the man who had saved my shop. A small, knowing smile spread across my face. The ripple effect of kindness, I realized, truly has no end. It simply grows, touching lives in ways we can never fully predict, proving that even in our darkest moments, there is always hope, always connection, always a brighter morning, glory waiting to bloom.